What's up, Exiles? It's Hegemony, and today I'm going to share with you guys my starter build for the upcoming Essence League. I'm going back to my roots, and I'm going to be playing a Leap Sweeper with two-handed RT Maces. That's Resolute technique, so I cannot crit. Now you might be wondering, why am I going RT Maces when I can get my staff? Well, my staff is usually pretty expensive, so it's a bit unrealistic to get it up and running with the appropriate crit multi, and accuracy gear. RT Maces is way easier to gear up because you can get resist and stats as your suffixes. As for prefixes, Flat Fizz, Life, Mana, Mana Leech, Life Leech, these are all great choices. This character managed to get to level 93 in the Hardcore Ruckus League, and it died at rank 38 on the ladder. And that's one of the incentives that I had in remaking this character, is because we're going into the Atlas with so many unknowns. So many new bosses, so many new layouts, and who knows what they do and how hard they are. I self-cast Enfeeble and Vol Grace. These are on-demand defensive cooldowns that I can use to tackle very sketchy situations. With 8 endurance charges, 642 life regeneration per second passively, Arctic armor, and over 16.7k armor, it makes this guy a very sick tank. Let's go over the Juggernaut Ascendancy tree and how it really synergizes with this character. The first node, Unbreakable, cannot be stunned. Armor received from body armor is doubled. And as you can see, my chest piece only has 1537 armor. This can go up way higher. In fact, I plan on using the Brass Dome Gladiator Plate. This is a new unique introduced in the Essence League. It has over 4k armor. In addition, it has take no extra damage from critical strikes. This means critical strike damage multipliers have no effect. You can still get crit and take the ailment, but you won't get a long duration unless it's a shock. The other downsides of this chest is that it has 30% chance to reduce blocks from attacks and spells. And I don't have any block chance with two-handed maces to begin with, so that's not really a downside. 10% movement speed. I have no movement speed on this build because I use a very fast attacking leap to get around. And since I don't have to rely on movement speed, I can get even more armor on my boots. Now I don't know how rare and expensive the Brass Dome is going to be, but I definitely want to use it in the end game. And since it doesn't have any resist, I'm going to have to look for very powerful rares with high tier resist suffixes. Let's move along to the other nodes in the Ascendancy tree. Unflinching gives you +1 max endurance charges. With all the endurance charges on the tree, plus the one you get from Oak and Merciless, this will give you a total of 8 endurance charges. 20% chance to gain an endurance charge when you are hit, so that's another way to rapidly generate them. Next we have Unrelenting, which is one of my favorite notables. It has 6% increased damage per endurance charge. This is a total of 48% increased global damage. It'll apply to elemental, physical, bleed, and poison damage if I manage to get a Void Heart. So we get a sick damage boost, and then we get 8% reduced elemental damage taken while you're at maximum endurance charges. This 8% reduced elemental damage taken is equivalent to roughly 2% maximum all res. And in the last line of Unrelenting, it says if you would gain endurance charges, you instead gain up to your maximum number of endurance charges. This is being nerfed to a 25% chance. And trust me, this is still very good. So we have a 20% chance to get endurance charge when you're hit. And in 240, you'll have a 25% chance to get your max endurance charges when you gain an endurance charge. But this character also offers endurance charge on melee stun support gem attached to my leap slam. And you might be wondering, is this setup even really reliable? Maces in general have stun synergies in Path of Exile. We have skull cracking, which gives you a 10% reduced enemy stun threshold. This is very important. In addition to the nodes before it give you 4% each. And then we have Bone Breaker, 40% increased stun duration on enemies. We also have the duelist node called Executioner. Executioner provides 20% increased stun duration with two-handed melee weapons. So with Resolute technique, you never miss. So yes, it is reliable. Note that when you run a map with monsters are immune to stuns, this feature will not work. I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket, so we need layered defenses. Which brings me to my last 2 points, Unyielding. This provides 30% increased global damage while you have Fortify, in addition to giving you 1.5% of maximum life regenerated per second while you have Fortify. 25% increased effect of Fortify on you. This brings Fortify to a total of 25% damage reduction. This is damage reduction to chaos, physical, spells, all your weaknesses. Now, a lot of people ask me, why don't you pick up Unstoppable instead? Because it does not allow you to be slowed below your base movement speed. This means Chilled Ground and Temp Chains will not slow your movement speed. It will slow your attack speed if you're in it, but it is a quality of life thing. And the nodes before that give you more movement speed. This character doesn't move in the traditional sense. It uses Leap Slam and really fast attack speed to move around, so I don't get that much value out of it. And in my opinion and my style, I'm just not going to run Temp Chains maps. Not because I can't do it, but because I find them very annoying and unenjoyable. This build can do both physical and elemental reflect in red maps with no problems whatsoever. The ability to do a wide variety of map mods, the fact that this build is so cheap, and the fact that this character can take down some of the sketchiest bosses is one of my major incentives to make this as my first character in the Essence League. Let's go over my items really quick. I have a Coronal Maul, which has an implicit 6% increased radius of area skills. This mace was self-crafted and is 498 DPS. This was self-crafted by me, and it has a couple of important mods. Socketed gems are supported by level 1 blood magic. This is because Cyclone is kinda rough to run on mana. As you can see with Conk Effect on a 5-link, it costs 64. And when you run reduced regen maps or physical damage reduction maps, it can be kinda cumbersome on your mana pool. So my Cyclone is linked with Concentrated Effect, Fortify, melee physical damage, and hypothermia. Now why do I use hypothermia? And it's mainly because I use Arctic Armor. I only use Cyclone as single target DPS. And since I run Arctic Armor, I'm constantly running through the target that I'm DPSing anyways. Conk Effect makes my AoE very, very small. Hypothermia won't show up on tooltip, but it's 38% more global damage against chilled enemies. Let's move on to the body armor. I have an Astral Plate that's 5-linked. This character performs quite well on 2 5-links. I have Sweep socketed with Fortify, Melee Fizz, Multi-Strike, and Ink AoE. If I were to get an added 6-link on my Sweep, I'd probably put in faster attacks. For Cyclone, the added 6-link would probably be added Fire. And in this solo link, I have a single-linked Hatred. In my gloves, I have Greater Multiple Projectiles, linked with Castle Damage Taken and Arctic Breath. Whenever I'm struck for very little damage, it spews out Chilled Ground, which also helps with my hypothermia, and it more or less kind of temp changes them without using my curse slot. In my helmet, I have Leap Slam linked with Blood Magic, Endurance Charge on melee stun, and faster attacks. I feel like Blood Magic is a huge quality of life, but it's not necessary. This will allow you to leap indefinitely in reduced regen or even no regen maps, as long as you have HP. I bought this helmet from somebody who was doing the Uber Lab, and I bought this as a white base. I then proceeded to craft it myself, and I managed to get a pretty sweet helm. My boots have no movement speed, it just provides life and tri-res. And you will notice that the boot enchant implicit does not affect my character because I cannot crit. My gloves give me life, attack speed, resist, and mana leech. This is the only source of mana leech that I have on my tree. And the last 4-link I have in my boots is Vault Grace, Enfeeble, Blood Rage, and Increased Duration. One of the beautiful things about this character, it doesn't need a damage curse to kill stuff. It kills stuff just fine with its base damage. We do, however, have some flasks that add damage. Lion's Roar is another flask that adds more melee physical damage. In addition, it causes enemies to knock back and has a chance to flee. Combined with Sweep, it keeps scary melee monsters at bay. As soon as you leap into a pack, it's important that you have good enough attack speed to get the sweep animation off. So while you're sitting there sweeping melee monsters off of you and knocking them back, you'll get hit by a few projectiles. And that's what makes Arctic Armor and Castle Damage Taken GMP Arctic Breath really shine. It'll chill the monsters that hit you from range, and it'll suppress the fire and physical damage. Lastly, let's take a look at the jewelry. Dex and Int are going to be your 2 most desired off stats. Dex allows you to maximize your Blood Rage and your Vault Grace. Intelligence allows you to get the maximum level Enfeeble. If you can't get enough stats, it's perfectly fine to use a lower ranked Enfeeble and Blood Rage. Now it's important to note that I've made this character before back in October of 2015, and the character progression and itemization is the same. If you would like to know more about that, feel free to check out the YouTube description for more information. I've also taken the liberty to add a montage video of the Ruckus League. The Ruckus League is a league where all league mods are active. So if you're watching this montage video, please keep in mind that this character did not have access to the Juggernaut Ascendancy. It performed quite well in one of the hardest leagues I've ever played in, and the only reason it died was because I was playing through a thunderstorm and my power went out. The last few things you might want to know about this character are the bandit rewards, and it was Oak for the HP, Kraityn for the attack speed, and Oak for the extra endurance charge. The patch notes for the Atlas Essence League has already been released, and Sweep will be getting 15% more damage. This is a buff. As for endgame plans for this character, will I go Hegemony's era and go crit staves? That is a complete possibility. However, lately, my shaft has been quite expensive. With every challenge league, my goal is to get the maximum number of challenges so I can get another totem pole. And in order to achieve this, I'm going to need some capital. And once my body is ready and able, I'm going to be farming the Uber Lab until I get filthy fucking rich. If you want to see how a manly melee build is played in a hardcore league, I suggest you tune into the stream when I go live on twitch.tv/HegemonyTV. Lastly, I want to thank you guys for watching, and if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Hegemony, and I'll see you guys in the Essence League.